Look at that. Here we go. Matt DePietro, Senior Product Manager for Amazon Lightsail. Matt, welcome to the show.
Thank you. Hi, Robert. Hi, Jenna. Nice to meet you again and excited to be here and share Lightsail object storage with everyone.
Lightsail Object Storage. You just let the cat out of the bag. What is Lightsail Object Storage and why is it so exciting?
Yeah, so Lightsail, to begin, Lightsail is the easiest way to get started in the cloud and try AWS services. And within Lightsail, we kind of do this in two different ways. We focus on two really important tenets. The first one is to have that intuitive and easy to use console experience. And the second is having that predictable monthly pricing plan. So you might be asking, what do you mean by those two different things, right? So with Lightsail's simplified user experience, we kind of obstruct a lot of those complexities, and we allow users to kind of focus on their websites and applications and not how to set up and configure their architecture. And then with the prepaid bundle model, what's kind of unique in Lightsail is we have a set allowance per each resource you want to purchase and at a defined price. So for example, we'll get into this a little bit later, but Lightsail object storage, it starts at $1 a month. With that $1, you get a 5 gigabyte storage capacity and 25 gigabytes data transfer. So as long as a customer stays within that allowance per month, it's $1. So with that, as customers come into Lightsail or the cloud for the very first time, it's very predictable. So when customers look at what to purchase and what they need for their scenarios, they're going to know at the beginning of the month how much that's going to cost at the end of the month. And then we kind of take that philosophy, not just for Lightsail object storage, but all of Lightsail resources. So Lightsail supports many different resources coming from instances to containers, to CDN distributions, to databases, and now Lightsail object storage.
Yeah, you mentioned another thing about Lightsail, which is that it's for beginners. It's one of the easiest ways to get started with the cloud. Can you talk a little bit more about that?
Yeah, so when users are coming to the cloud for the first time, they might just have a very simple application or scenario they want to solve for. It's like, I just want to create a website, or maybe just a startup, a new customer, small and medium business. They have a very easy and simple architecture. So within Lightsail, you can get up and running in just a few different clicks. So if I want to create a WordPress website, you can use a Lightsail instance. Again, you're going to see that bundled pricing on the create experience, and you click one button and you have WordPress already installed on that instance. And then again, rather than focusing on how do I configure that instance, what are the right networking capabilities and requirements, I can just go straight into WordPress. I can create my website and then focus on my actual scenarios rather than that architecture. So that applies, again, to all of our resources. All those complexities are hidden behind the scenes so that you can focus on what you want to actually get done.
Yeah, well said. And if I may add, I think there's a lot of people, when they first start on AWS and, they get a little overwhelmed, right? I mean, because we have a lot of services, we have a lot of solutions out there. And I think what I love most about Lightsail is its simplicity. It really kind of boils things down to the essentials so that, hey, here are the building blocks for your application. I love it.
So before Lightsail object storage launched, what were customers doing to solve this problem? How are they solving the problem?
Yeah, so first, like Lightsail object storage, what is it used for? So the object storage is kind of used to store all of your static content for your website or application or any type of backup solution. So if I wanted to create a website or an application and I wanted to store all of my data, before Lightsail object storage, those customers were doing one of two things. One, they were storing the data on the instance itself, which what we call block storage. You can think of this as kind of the hard drive on your instance. The issue with this is that you can only access the data on the instance itself, meaning you either need a VPN in or SSH in, and there's no console experience with all that rich functionality that is in Lightsail object storage. And secondly, it's not as scalable. So if you needed 2 instances behind a load balancer, that means you needed to duplicate your data across 2 different block storage disks. And anytime you needed to update or manage that data, you had to do it in 2 different places. So with Lightsail object storage, you kind of get this centralized location to update all of your data for whatever your application or your website needs are. And then if customers did not want to use a block storage on the instance, they needed to look for other object storage solutions. Well, in AWS, we also have S3, which is one of our most popular solutions and services within AWS. So what we strive to do with Lightsail object storage is kind of bring what customers know and love about S3 and bring that into Lightsail.
So who would you say is the main target customer of this feature? Or maybe in other words, who is going to be most excited to hear about this new capability?
Yeah, so you can continue to hear me talking about like WordPress websites and applications. So that's like kind of one of our main and common scenarios within Lightsail. So the main focus of Lightsail Object Storage is to continue to expand those capabilities for those customers building their websites and applications that require the needs of all of the features and functionalities of object storage versus a block storage on the instance. However, with that being said, object storage is a great solution for any type of backup needs, or if you just need to store some logs for your application, you can easily do so within a Lightsail bundle. And then third, we have a large customer base within Lightsail already. So our existing Lightsail customer base, the people who do use our ecosystem and a full range of our products in depth, they can continue to use Lightsail object storage in the same way with full integration into our Lightsail services, such as our Lightsail instances and our CDN distributions. So when we think about Lightsail object storage as a product, it's not only how do we make this product as easy as possible for customers to use, it's also about how do we make those deep integrations with those other services easy. And you'll hear me talk about that more when we talk about how Lightsail object storage works with an instance and how you can assign roles very easily. So again, we always think about not only just object storage as a single product, but how it works in the entire Lightsail ecosystem.
Yeah. So you mentioned S3 a little bit ago. What
Yeah.
is Lightsail object storage backed by S3?
It is. Lightsail Object Storage does use S3. So with S3, you're going to get the same scalability, reliability, security, and performance that S3 is already known for and is industry leading in. And you're going to get that within Lightsail Object Storage. However, the difference between Lightsail and S3 does come within our simplification and using the Lightsail ecosystem. So as I stated, like Lightsail is known for having a very simplified user experience, which allows customers to get up and running very quickly, as well as our predictable monthly bundle pricing plans. And those are key tenets that we as Lightsail think about for every single product that we create and we develop within the Lightsail ecosystem. So with Lightsail Object Storage, some of our simplifications and user experiences revolve around a one-click create experience. We have 3 different ways to manage your public access of your data. We have a consolidation of programmatic access. So if you do want to use Lightsail Object Storage for an application, allowing your application access to the Lightsail Object Storage bucket is extremely easy, as well as instance role assignment and the ability to share that bucket with other AWS accounts directly in the console. So I kind of just named quite a few different features very quickly. And as we go through the demo, I'll kind of talk about those so you can get a better understanding of what it means and where it is in the console and how to use that. But there is one key difference and call out that I wanted to make about Lightsail and S3, and that's how customers will use our CLI and SDK APIs. So when we talk about anything from a bundle perspective, so if you want to create a bucket, if you want to update your pricing plan in Lightsail, or if you want to list all of your buckets in your account, you're going to be using the Lightsail API for those functions. However, anytime you want to actually upload any objects or manipulate any of your data or list all of your objects in an account, you're going to use the S3 API for that. So for all supported object API based actions, there's no functional difference because you're going to be using that S3 API. But again, when you want to change a bundle or if you want to create a new bucket within Lightsail, you're going to be using our brand new Lightsail APIs to do so.
Got it. Okay, so let me make sure I understand this. If I use the SDK and I create a bucket in Lightsail, I can grab that ARN and then plug it into my existing S3 API for specific object manipulation, and then I'm off to the races. Is that how that works?
That is correct. That is definitely correct. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. That's very interesting, and probably notable for anybody who wants to try and play with this feature, who is coming from a position where they're more familiar with S3.
Correct.
But so, help me out here? I mean, if you create a Lightsail object storage bucket, even though it's backed by S3, is that going to show up in my S3 console? And if I call S3, right, like get bucket, list bucket, will I not see the Lightsail bucket?
That is correct. So if you create a Lightsail object storage bucket, you're going to see that within the Lightsail ecosystem. So if you were to go to S3 and then you see your list of all of your buckets in S3, it will not show up there. So we were able to kind of organize that for the customer to make it easier for them to understand which buckets were in Lightsail and which buckets were in S3. Because again, when it comes to the Lightsail side on listing those buckets, you want to see and be able to manage those buckets, and you want to be able to understand your pricing plans and understand how the flexibility works between all three of our bundles as well. So you will see those specifically within the Lightsail console.
So one of the things here.
Sorry, one quick follow-up question here. Then let's say I know that a lot of users who start off with Lightsail and they're really successful, they expand and broaden out into all the other great services on AWS. Now, if they were to start with Lightsail object storage and then want to, let's say, move over to S3, what does that look like and how does that work?
Yeah, so we actually have a very simple and easy to use CLI command. So as you say, as customers start in Lightsail object storage, they can feel as if they're not blocked. So as they understand more, they grow their business or their applications and scenarios require more functionality that's provided in S3. You can replicate and copy your data from your Lightsail object storage bucket to S3. So essentially what this does is when you use that CLI command, it'll copy all of your data within your Lightsail object storage bucket into that S3 bucket. So as an end state, you'll have two buckets, one in Lightsail and one in S3. So when that process is complete, you can then go look in your S3 bucket, make sure it has all the data that you wanted that was in your Lightsail bucket. And then after you're done, if you choose to do so, you can delete that Lightsail object storage bucket. The reason why that works that way and it's not a migration is because for each new bucket, it obviously is a new publicly identifiable DNS name. So if your bucket was already in use in any type of production system, you want to make sure that you do transition your Lightsail endpoint to your S3 endpoint when it's convenient to you. But it's really cool. Within Lightsail, it's not just about Lightsail object storage on how you can transition from Lightsail to the other products. We kind of think about that through all of our Lightsail services. So any customer that comes into Lightsail, if they're brand new and they just want to get up and running very quickly, and then later in their customer journey want to use any of the other AWS resources, we allow what we call graduation. So the customer will be able to move their data and their resources into the rest of AWS, which is something really cool and really powerful that customers can have within Lightsail.
Awesome. We have a question in Twitch chat from Brogies. I don't know if I'm pronouncing the name right. Probably not. And they say that they have a website hosted in another provider. Can I migrate that easily to Lightsail?
You can. It does depend on what kind of website. But again, we support WordPress websites. There are plenty of different plugins within WordPress that allow for those migrations. So it's really just a matter of transitioning your data and making sure that those publicly identifiable endpoints and your DNS names and your domains are now served to your new Lightsail instance if you're using WordPress. So there is some steps involved, but you very easily can migrate any other external website into Lightsail and take advantage of our ease of use and our predictable monthly plans.
So nearly everything we do at AWS is driven by our customers. How did you know that this was what they needed?
Yeah, so when we first created Lightsail as a product, and then over time we kind of gradually added more resources to Lightsail, whether it was again CDN or databases and DNS zones. We always felt object storage was that key missing piece because from a WordPress or website point of view and application point of view, like one of the common what we call recipes is the use of an instance, a CDN, and an object storage bucket. So to us, we always felt like this was like one of those last gaps within the product. But more importantly, it's all about the customer feedback and the scenarios that customers are trying to solve for. So within Lightsail and for Lightsail object storage, we got a wide range of feedback from different audiences, from like startups to researchers to universities, trying to solve for solutions for like podcast storage, WordPress websites, building out inventory applications for an online storefront. So when we think about Lightsail object storage, It's really no different than how we develop different products in AWS and in Amazon. It really starts with that customer focus first and working backwards from their needs to figure out what that product should be. And Lightsail Object Storage was no different.
Yeah, I totally agree with you, Matt. I think this was that was my reaction way back when I first started using Lightsail myself. In fact, one of the first projects I did on Lightsail was to set up a cluster for file storage. And I know that's a slightly different use case, but the whole persistent files. Because if you zoom out for a little bit, why is S3 so powerful and why is it so useful to customers? It's because it's effectively this infinitely large, endlessly scalable file system, right? And you don't have to worry about any of the infrastructure. You don't have to worry about resizing instances or provisioning additional capacity or optimizing the performance of it. It just goes. It's got great prices, and to see us bringing that in line with all the simplicity and the integrations within Lightsail makes me really happy, and I think it's definitely the right move. Now, you mentioned earlier that there's a lot of integrations within Lightsail between object storage and some of the other features. Was that right?
That's correct. Yeah, so while Lightsail Object Storage is within the Lightsail ecosystem, we wanted to make sure all of those different integrations and scenarios that the customers are trying to solve for are within Lightsail and can be used and solved for within Lightsail. So for example, if I wanted to create a WordPress website, all of the top popular object storage WordPress plugins that are supported with S3 are also supported with Lightsail Object Storage. So when you consider storing your static data on an object storage bucket rather than your instance, there's different media plugins within WordPress, such as Offload MediaLite, that allow you to transition that data to your object storage bucket. And then once a customer goes to your website, the instance will call the Lightsail Object Storage bucket for that data to be rendered for customers rather than the block storage. And that's actually part of the demo that I want to show today. And we'll take an understand how to set that up and what it looks like. In addition to that, if a customer needs to serve to their audience at a global scale, with our Lightsail CDN distribution, you can get up and running in a single click. So with one click, you can have the backbone and power of AWS with a decrease in latency at a global scale for your website and your application with Lightsail CDN distributions. So I think that's pretty awesome. So that's definitely an integration that we wanted to have from day one. In addition to that, when we think about programmatic access, so if I do have a website or an application, how do I give my instance access to my object storage bucket? So with that, we created Lightsail Object Storage role assignments directly within our console. So if you're familiar with AWS and you have used our services before, within IAM, you have different policies, roles, and users that you need to kind of set up to configure that programmatic access. With Lightsail Object Storage, you can go right into your bucket. Within a single click, you have an assignment directly to your Lightsail instance. So you don't need to go through that process, understand another AWS product. You can do that full scenario end-to-end right within the bucket.
I like that. Sounds like it's making it a lot simpler for people to deploy their new website and also add that storage capability. Mm-hmm. So I know there are people out there who are wondering, and we've touched on this a little bit, but can you clear up what the pricing differences are between Lightsail Object Storage and S3?
Yeah, so again, with all of Lightsail, we have different bundled pricings. So with Lightsail Object Storage, we have 3 different bundles. There's a $1 bundle, a $3 bundle, and a $5 bundle. So within each bundle, you'll have a specific amount of storage capacity and data transfer allowance. For example, in that $1 bundle, there is 5 gigabytes of storage and 25 gigabytes of data transfer. And going all the way up to the $5 bundle, you can get 250 gigabytes of storage and 500 gigabytes of data transfer. So each bundle price has a different allowance of that storage capacity and data transfer. And what's really cool is not only is it predictable because of the price, but it's also super flexible. So if I just want to get started very quick and easy, I have a very small proof of concept that I want to try out, I can start with that $1 bundle. And then let's say that proof of concept gets greenlit. I want to actually start sharing this with customers, which means my demand and scale for that bundle is going to increase. Once a month, I can change my actual bundle for that existing bucket. So I can easily go from that $1 bundle to that $5 bundle. and not have to delete my bucket and recreate buckets or transition my data elsewhere. Nothing changes other than the price you pay at the end of the month. So no different configurations in your architecture, which just makes it really powerful, predictable, and flexible for our customers.
Definitely.
That sounds pretty sweet. We have requests across both Twitch and LinkedIn to see a demo of this. Matt, before we switch over to that,
Sure.
Is there anything else you want to mention?
Yeah. So again, when it comes to our predictable bundled pricing, what you get for that $1, $3, $5 is within that allowance. So don't be worried that if I hit my $5 storage capacity on my $1 bundle, like what happens? You still can go over, because again, at the end of the day, Amazon's object storage is infinitely scalable. So once you exceed what you have in your allowance, you'll have a overage price per gigabyte that'll just go pay per gigabyte as you go. So think of that $1, $3, and $5 as the allowance you get for that bundle, and don't be worried about accidentally going over. Nothing's going to happen to your service, or it's not going to get shut down or anything like that. We have the same per gigabyte fee post bundle.
Yeah, well, that sounds pretty compelling, and I don't think I'm alone when I want to see a demo. Yeah, there we go, right on the featured right there below our stream. Demo, please. Well, are you ready to show us what you have here?
Yeah, so one thing I do want to mention before we get into that demo is, again, not only is Lightsail the best place to get started in the cloud, everything I'm about to show you within this demo, you can do for free. So one thing I purposely forgot to mention is within that $1 bundle, you can start for free for the first 12 months. In addition, if you want to add your Lightsail object storage bundle as an origin to your Lightsail CDN distribution, you can also try that for free for the first 12 months. And if you want to assign this to an application or a website, you can also get started for free with that Lightsail instance. So this entire demo and what I'm about to show, you can get started today for free. So again, I'm sharing my screen. Right now, I am within my Lightsail object storage bucket. You can see I called my bucket Amazon What's New. Right below that, it's a 5 gigabyte storage bucket. So this is the $1 bundle. And this is the overview of what Lightsail object storage looks like. On the right-hand side, you can always see the permissions of all of your objects. By default, every object in your bucket is going to be private. So only you as the account owner and the creator of that bucket can see the data within the bucket that you uploaded. So there will be various scenarios in which you don't want that, but it is there by default, and the majority of users should keep their bucket private by default. But if you are creating a website, you do need to be able to allow some objects within that bucket to be publicly readable, so that way your website is served to your customers. So I just went to the permissions tab, and I'm going to click on change permissions. So as you can see right here, it even says it again that all objects are private. And when I click on change permissions, these are the 3 different permission options that I was talking about that we just try to make easier for our customers and better understand what the status is of all of their objects. So for the purpose of this demo, what I'm going to do is I'm going to properly configure my bucket, and then I'm going to go to a Lightsail instance, and I'm going to install the Offload Media Light plugin, so that for any WordPress user, if they want to transition their data away from that block storage on the instance to Lightsail object storage, I'm going to show you how to configure that plugin and then show you what that object looks like, and with the URL after the fact showing that is now pointed to Lightsail object storage.
That sounds great, Matt. So, just before we embark on that, when you initially started the screen share, we were already looking at the an existing bucket that you had already created, right?
Correct.
Would it be possible to show everybody just how you get here and how you create a bucket, how we got to this point?
So let me open up Lightsail. So this is our overall console and dashboard once it loads. So right now I am in the storage tab. So all of those services that I was talking about earlier, from instances to containers and CDN and static IP addresses, you can see all of those different services by each of these tabs. So if I wanted to create an instance, I can go to this tab and click on Create Instance. So in order to start with object storage, you're going to go to the storage tab and click on create bucket. So as part of that simplification process, if I wanted to, I could just click create bucket right now. There are a few things you can take a look at and change. For example, it's going to default to your existing region already. So all of my other services right now are in Virginia. But if I wanted to change region, I can go in here and click on all the different regions in which where you would want to store that bucket. In addition, here are those 3 different storage plans that I was talking about, from the $1 to $3 and $5 with the different storage and data transfer allowances. So this is where you can change or create a plan for your bucket, and then just identify the name of your bucket. And as long as it's available, you can click on create bucket. So if I click on this button, you can see that it was free for the first 12 months because I was using that $1 bundle. And just like that, I'm right back to where I was. My bucket was already created. And within a second, you can easily start uploading objects to your bucket.
Yeah, and one other quick thing I wanted to call out here is if you go back to the pricing for
Yes.
just a second, if you're an experienced Lightsail user, or if you just kind of click around the console, what you can find is that compared to instance pricing, this offers a pretty interesting trade-off, right? So for example, take the $5 plan here. You get 250 gigs of storage and 500 gigs of transfer. But if you were to try to do this yourself, which is, I think, Matt, what you were saying customers were doing prior to this, if you were to try to set up your instance as a file host, what trade-offs are you getting? Well, for one, for the same price, I believe $5 on Lightsail buys you something like a 40 gig SSD, right?
Correct.
So you get less storage, but by using Lightsail object storage, you're getting more available storage per dollar, right?
Yeah, I think that's a good call out as well.
Now the instance does have more transfer allowance, which is another interesting consideration. So my point is, I think the great thing is that we're able to just reason about this, right? There's are just two or three variables that we're trying to balance across, and it's important to emphasize just how much simpler this is than the amount of decisions a customer typically has to make around, okay, do I use S3? Because like one of the things I think you mentioned in passing was that S3 does have some complexity to it, right? Such as the S3 storage tiers, and there's different, right? So S3, let me explain that real quick. S3 has various storage tiers that offer different price performance ratios and different durability ratios and that kind of thing. So what Lightsail has done is it said, okay, by default, we're going to choose this storage tier on S3 and build on top of that as an abstraction, right? And then customers that need the extra power and flexibility of the different storage tiers, they can perform the migration use case that you described, and then they can start using those. Is that all kind of in line with what everything you described so far?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So again, we're just trying to reduce some of the decisions and complexities and kind of bring those behind the scenes so that the customer can focus on just how much storage do I need and how can I use that for my scenario, and then just get started right away with what they wanted to do. So yeah, we're using the most popular different storage classes and all of that behind the scenes with the best recommended practices for the customer. Okay. So again, I want to create a WordPress website, and I want to upload an object to my website, but I want that object to be hosted and stored from Lightsail Object Storage and not the WordPress disk. So what I'm going to do is the first step is in the bucket access permissions. I'm going to click on the second option, which is individual objects can be made public and read-only. And the reason why I'm doing this again is because if I am creating a website, those objects need to be publicly renderable to a customer when they load that website. So in this option, only the objects that are critical and mandatory for that website to be loaded will be public. And just to ensure, as far as least privileged access, in Lightsail, the highest level is public read-only. So all objects will be public read-only in that sense. So now that I have my bucket configured, I need to say, okay, if I already have a Lightsail instance created, how do I give access to that instance for my bucket? So if I just scroll down a little bit farther and I go to resource access, I click on attach instance. This is going to show me my existing instances in Lightsail that I have created running in Virginia. So I'm going to click on WordPress instance and click attach. So within one click, I just assigned all of the proper permissions that you would have had to do within IAM with users and groups, and configure that right within the Lightsail console without having to leave and go anywhere else. That is super powerful. I'm really excited for customers to start using that, and then just focus again on just getting up and running quickly. So I had just...
Are you saying we didn't have to write any IAM policies?
Correct. There's no policy. It's all behind the scenes.
Just wanted to confirm.
Yeah. So behind the scenes, the policy has been assigned.
Matt, I think you're
underselling.
You're underselling what's going on here, because this is huge, right? I mean, for you, like you said, with one click, you've attached the bucket to the instance. But and Jenna immediately caught on. But for those of you watching, this is huge. Okay, so typically, right, way back in my day, you have an EC2 instance and you have an S3 bucket, and what do you have to do to get those resources to talk to one another? Well, the best practice is to go and assign IAM policies. And the thing I love about Lightsail is that customers can get started without even knowing what IAM is. In fact, I think that's one of the key abstractions, right? Customers can gradually ease themselves into these things. IAM is awesome at what it does, right? It's authorization policies for giving fine granular access using the principle of least permission for all your different resources on AWS. Absolutely critical piece of tooling for anything complicated on AWS. But like you said, for simple web applications, I feel like what the Lightsail team has done is to identify these silos of use cases and really, really streamline them, such as this example where you have taken basically the correct access controls and applied them on both ends of these two resources, and you've enabled that kind of one-click experience. This is awesome.
Yeah, so from the Lightsail object storage side, that's all I needed to get started with adding that object storage bucket to my Lightsail instance. So in this tab, I'm going to transition from Lightsail for a second to the WordPress dashboard. So now that I am on my instance, I logged in, I am looking at my WordPress dashboard. I now need to install the plugin for offloading media. So this is what's going to allow the website that you're about to create to, when you upload the objects in this dashboard, it's going to go directly to your object storage bucket and not on the disk. So I'm going to, on the left-hand side, I'm going to add new, and then I'm going to search. It's called WordPress Offload Media. And here's one of the most popular plugins for WordPress websites and Amazon. It's called WordPress Offload Media Lite for Amazon S3. I'm going to install now. Okay, now it's installed just like that. I'm going to go to my plugins now. So under my list of plugins, I'm going to scroll down, and now you see this WordPress Offload Media Lite plugin installed on my WordPress instance. I'm just going to activate it. And now that it's activated, I'm going to go to settings. So now this is the configuration process to this. So because of that one-click process of assigning the user and role and policy from your Lightsail object storage bucket to your instance, under the Amazon S3 header, I'm going to click on the second option and click Next. In that one click, I can, let me browse existing buckets, and then just like that, my bucket now shows up. Remember, Amazon What's New. Here was my bucket called Amazon What's New. Just like that, in that one click, my plugin now recognizes that my instance has permissions to that bucket. So I'm going to click on that bucket and save. Now the plugin knows which bucket to offload that media to, and everything's configured. And I'm going to force HTTPS just for security reasons and save changes. Okay, so at this point, everything's configured. Again, just to kind of recap, in the Lightsail object storage bucket, we ensured that the bucket was publicly readable just for the objects that are uploaded in WordPress. And then we attached that bucket to an instance. So now in the WordPress website, I'm going to go to Media. And all I have to do is click and drag and upload a file. So I uploaded a picture that I took 2 years ago. It's the Milky Way over Mount Rainier. So now in my media for this website, I have this one image. If I click on that image, you can now see the URL to that file is pointing to your Lightsail object storage bucket. And then if you go back to your object storage bucket and hit refresh to even double confirm that it works properly, you can now see that there are objects listed. So this is where all of your object management occurs. Lightsail and the media plugin created its own folder content. So if I go to uploads, which was that object I just uploaded, you're going to see all the different scalable versions of that object in different sizes, because WordPress is going to accurately pick which size best renders to the website when it's needed. So if I click on any of these objects, I have the URL, and then there's my object in the S3 bucket, or the Lightsail object storage bucket, from my WordPress Lightsail instance, using everything configured properly, just a few clicks with that predictable monthly plan.
That's awesome. I just wanted to call out one quick thing though, that resizing, because you uploaded one file and you got the resized variants of that. That is all. Yeah. That is not a feature of Lightsail object storage. That's a feature of WordPress, right?
The plugin that I installed is doing that automatically to ensure you have the best experience with WordPress.
Yes, just making sure that people did not assume that uploading a file into Lightsail object store triggered some sort of resizing and that kind of thing. Yeah, that is extremely cool.
Yeah, and that's what I wanted to share today. So thank you again, and I'm excited for everyone.
Yeah, well, let's. If you tuned in a little bit late, let me give you a quick recap of what we just saw. Matt DiPietro, Senior Product Manager here, special guests from the Lightsail service team, just showed us a demo of a brand new feature in Amazon Lightsail Object Storage. And with Object Storage, you have a simple object storage service and feature on top of Amazon S3. And with that feature, you can now build static websites. You can optimize WordPress sites. You can host files in there. You can hook it up to your CDN. With one click, you can also give access to your Lightsail instances. This is a great feature. It's been missing from Lightsail for a long time. Actually, I don't want to say it's missing. I mean, it takes time to understand what the right thing to build is. And Lightsail has always had a useful set of features right from the get-go. I think what we're seeing now is just like gradually understanding and listening to customer feedback to build out more and more of those pieces so that we have those really well-tuned recipes for helping customers get up and running very quickly. So I totally agree with you that this is a game changer for Lightsail users. And if we can get a link in chat of where customers can learn more about the feature, where they can get started, I think that's the way to go. Matt, anything else to add?
Yeah, so again, went over everything. You just saw the awesome demo. Don't forget, you can start for free, whether you want to create just a Lightsail object storage bucket, attach it to a CDN, use an instance. All of our resources have these great free trials. So don't worry about what do I have to pay? Again, even though we have that predictable monthly plan, go take a look at our free trial and play around. And feel free to send us your feedback.
That's right. Yes. We always want to hear your feedback. All right, everybody. That brings us to the end of the first demo we have for today. Matt, thank you for being here. We're going to be right back. But before we go to break, we're going to drop a link into the chat so that you can fill out a survey to tell us how we're doing on this show. And in that survey, you can also tell us what you want to see in future episodes of this show. It takes just a couple seconds, and we're going to give you some AWS credits for your as a thank you for your feedback. So you'll see the link to the survey in chat momentarily. Please take a couple seconds, fill that out, let us know how we're doing. Matt, thanks for being here.